Can I ask you guys, do all of you guys believe that addiction is a disease? Like all addiction?
I believe.
If you just raise your hands.
I believe that addiction is a weapon formed against us, and the only way it can prosper is if you allow it.
Mm-hmm.
By agreeing to it.
By agreeing to it.
Agreeing with
by
it.
By making yourself and allowing yourself to be subjectable to its power.
Yeah.
That's what I feel.
Yeah.
You know, and I just wanted to drop this real quick. The 5, 6, 7 steps on the 12 steps state, explains how being powerless and giving it to God and letting it go. So God is definitely relevant. You can't be no more clear than saying you're going to need God to get through this. It states it. They could have sugarcoated, they could have twisted words, but they blatantly flat out tell you it comes down to this. It comes down to God. And the first thing he wants you to know is that the First Amendment, the first thing he wanted to tell you before he said anything in terms of aligning your life with his purpose and his will for you, is the First Amendment the first commandment, my fault, was to love him with thy whole heart.
Heart, soul, mind, and strength.
Thy whole heart, thy whole mind, and thy whole soul. That's the very first step. It wasn't the steps on there, but 5 and 6 was very significant because the first thing he says is that I'm going to need you to do this before anything else can take place in your life.
So without this, nothing else will happen.
Nothing else can happen. Nothing else. Nothing else is going to take place until you pull this off here. You understand? So I just want to leave that now. We can move around.
You didn't raise your hand.
Oh, yeah, I believe
Okay.
Yeah, I believe when it comes to drugs and alcohol addiction, and like being an addict, I believe it's a disease. It messes, of course, with your brain and your body. You're depending on it. So it just psychologically, emotionally, physically, you're drawn to the substance, and that can be categorized as a disease, and it just changes you, who you are, and all you care about is getting high. All you care about is that feeling. And in all reality, it's just numbing a deeper issue.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I believe. There's a root cause for us to feel a certain way. It's this escape. It's an escape, right? We escape reality. We drink, smoke, do whatever, but it's really like just sugarcoating or not dealing with the real issue that stems from the inside,
Mm-hmm.
So,
Oh, and that scripture was Matthew 22nd, verse 34 through 40, if y'all want to get that.
Y'all heard
That
Siobhan.
first commandment.
Thank you. That was great clarification, too, because everybody needs to know
You
it.
got to have something to back you up.
Right, some context.
When you all were like realized that you had a problem, and you guys first wanted to get into recovery, what were some of the things that?
Tata, I'm gonna cut you off. I want to answer that question.
Oh, sorry about that.
Yeah, and then I'll just touch on it briefly after if I can.
Yeah, no, is addiction a disease?
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Right. So I'm gonna share. I don't believe it's a disease.
Oh, okay, you didn't raise your hand? I didn't see
Right?
that.
I don't believe it's a disease. Now, here's the thing: it's complex, right? It's a complex, and I'm gonna throw this out there and say, first of all, I don't care if it's a disease or not, right? My care is how you live your life, given the circumstances that if you fell under, right? How will you overcome and how you walking each day? How is your life being more productive since you put the substance down, right? That's my primary care, and my primary care is helping other people to overcome the addiction, right? Now let me break down the addiction. I don't believe the addiction is not a disease type deal. I believe, right, that so in the AA talks about it being a phenomenal craving, right? You have this phenomenal craving, right? I believe it's a disease as in dis-ease, right? Right? There's books out there that people don't talk about. It talks about the neuroscience of addiction, right? So psychologically, the addiction, you can have a habit that actually changes your habits, change your brain patterns. Right? And so after a while, right, what happens is that once you get through a substance consistently, right, and you consistently act in a behavior, right, then once you no longer have any control within your own being, as in you're no longer making free choices and you're making choices against your own will, then I believe that it becomes a disease, right? And then that's when it breaks down to, that's when you could break it down to having to need, like, because heroin, right? Alcohol, you can die from withdrawal symptoms.
Yeah.
So when you get into the point where you can die from having withdrawal symptom from a substance, and you need mental, you need psychological, and you need healthcare, detox, and all that, and medicine to come off that. That's when I believe alcohol has grown. The substance has grown into a disease. Initially, first. Man, I gotta be careful because I want to respect time, right? Initially, right? I believe, everybody said they believe in God here. For me, God is like, universal principles, things that I practically apply in everyday life that help me to overcome. You reap what you sow, stuff like that. You know what I mean?